Hello friends, it's Lisa and welcome to a new reading vlog. I'm very excited for this vlog. I have some exciting reading plans this week and I also think I might have some fun plans for the weekend that I will try my best to document. So I think it's just going to be a nice fun vlog. So let's chat about what I'm planning on reading this week. So there's a few things. I'm currently in the middle of two books. I just held up three fingers. Two books. And one of the books I'm reading right now is the audiobook for The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, and I'm 59% of the way through that book, so a little over halfway. And this is a book I highly recommend not looking at the description of before going into it, because I may have looked at the description when it first came out or when I first found out about it, but I didn't reread it before going into the book, and I feel like there are things in the description that kind of spoil some of the fun twists and turns. So what I will tell you and what I think you should know going into it is that you're following a character named Alex. She gets invited kind of last minute to be a part of this writing retreat that's hosted by her all-time favorite author, someone that she's grown up reading and is a big influence into her writing and why she is a writer herself. And there's 5 people that have been invited to this writing retreat. So we have Alex, and then one of her ex-best friends, Ren, is also invited. And her and Ren kind of had this argument, I don't know if it says exactly when it happened, but probably a year ago, and they haven't really been speaking since then. But they used to be super close, and you don't really know what happened that caused them to not be friends anymore. You kind of find that out throughout the book. But they're both going to this writing retreat, so they're going to be kind of forced to spend some time together. And there's also going to be 3 other girls that are also there doing this writing retreat along with the author, and they're going to the author's mansion or estate that she owns for the writing retreat, and it's very secluded. There's no service, no Wi-Fi. There's simply just a landline that they can use if they need to communicate with people. So kind of a spooky setting, and they all get there and they realize that there's some weird things kind of going on at this place, and there's just a lot of creepy vibes. There's also some interesting history at this particular estate as well. On top of it, our main character, Alex, has been suffering with writer's block since her fight with Ren a year ago. So now she's I'm suffering with writer's block, but now I have to do this really intense writing retreat for a few months. So it's really interesting. I will say it took kind of a while to get interesting. I feel like it kind of took until the halfway point for things to take a turn and for me to be oh, what's going on? And that's where I feel there's things in the description that don't start happening until the halfway point. So that's why I say don't read the description, because I didn't and I was totally surprised, and now I feel a lot more interested into what is going to happen next. I feel the first half was pretty slow. It was intriguing enough, and I think having it on audiobook was helpful for me because I can just kind of keep listening, whereas if I was physically reading it, I probably wouldn't be getting through it as fast. So it definitely was slow at the beginning. Still interesting, but not anything I wasn't on the edge of my seat, wondering what's going to happen next. But now I'm kind of at that point. I definitely have some predictions as to where I think it's going to go, but I'm still interested to see where things are going, what's going to happen. I feel that's just rare for me to be enjoying a thriller. I feel I do not have very good luck with thrillers. So I'm really hoping that this is one that I enjoy. I don't really pick up thrillers because I know that they're just not for me, but this is one that actually seemed really interesting and one that I did want to try. So I'm glad that I decided to try it and that I am enjoying it. I don't think I'm absolutely loving it, but where I'm at in the book, I'm definitely really intrigued to see what actually is happening. Like I said, I have my theories, but I don't know if I'll be right or not. I also am reading something physically, which I need to go and grab it. So the other book I'm currently reading is Ophelia After All by Raquel Marie. I'm not super far in. I'm 50 pages in, up to chapter 4, so I don't really have a ton of thoughts, but you're following Ophelia, who was pretty secure in what she liked and what she thought about herself. She has these friends that she's really close with, and she's obsessed with gardening and growing roses, and she also is always obsessed with boys. There's always a new boy that she's crushing on, and then everything kind of throws her for a loop when she ends up getting a crush on a girl, and she starts to question her identity. And not only that, she's having some trouble with, I think, her friends as well. And I think it's just going to be, like I said, a pretty coming of age type of book. But I've heard amazing things about this book. I feel so many people had this in their favorite books of the year videos last year. So I'm excited to keep going. Like I said, not super far, don't have a lot of thoughts, but so far I am liking it. I'm liking the writing style, I'm liking the characters and the different friendship dynamics, and I'm interested to see how the friendship group and the drama within that kind of plays out. So those are going to be, I think, the first couple of things that I finish up, but I also think in this vlog I'm going to try and read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. You heard me. That book that's literally everywhere. If you are a part of the book community at all, you've probably seen this book. And somehow, even though this book is being hyped up so much and like everyone is talking about it and everyone's reading it, I still don't really know what this book is about. I know it's a new adult fantasy and there's dragons. That's all I got. And to be honest, that's kind of all I want to know. I definitely want to read like more fantasies that have to do with dragons, so this seems like a good opportunity to do so, and so many people are loving it. I do feel like as the hype grows, more and more people are reading it, and there's starting to be more like negative reviews or just like reviews that aren't just 100% like 5 stars praising it and thinking it's the best thing ever. There are a little bit more balanced reviews coming out, I feel like. So I'm gonna go in with, I think, reasonable expectations. I have heard someone compare this to kind of like Sarah J Maas, like kind of giving those vibes. So I think if I go in with the right mindset, it could be a fun time, but I'm just so curious. Like, this book is so hyped right now. You literally can't go on Bookstagram, Book Twitter, BookTube without seeing this in pictures or thumbnails, people talking about it. Like, it's literally everywhere. So I'm curious. So I'm gonna read it. It definitely will be interesting because I feel like sometimes really hyped popular books, I'm right there with everybody. But then sometimes I'm like, I don't get what you people are talking about. So it'll be interesting to see what I think, but I'm excited to check it out. Excited for the TBR I have for the week. We'll see if I read anything else, but those are definitely like my main plans. And like I was saying, I think I might have some fun weekend plans. Father's Day is Sunday, so I don't know exactly like what my plans are for the weekend, but I think on Sunday, on Father's Day, I'm definitely going to be going to Maine. My parents are, I think, staying in Maine this weekend. We're going back to Maine. We just really like it there, I guess. And we're going there, and I think we're going to have like a nice like Father's Day lunch on Sunday, and then I may be staying the whole weekend with them in Maine, or I might go to the lake with my sister. I'm not really sure, but either way, there's gonna be some fun things happening this weekend. So yeah, I thought it would be a fun opportunity to do some vlogging, plus I just am really excited to talk about these books that I'm gonna be reading this week, so it seems like a perfect opportunity to vlog. Also, we have some exciting news, everybody. I think the Lunar Chronicles, like, adaptations, those movies, I think they might be happening. I was not trying to get my hopes up because, like, a lot of times, you know, the rights to things get sold and you think something's going to be adapted and that doesn't really happen, but, like, there's kind of been an update and there's, like, a person attached to the project and it just seems like it might actually be happening, and I don't know how to process that information. I'm actually really excited. It's going to be, like, animated movies, I think, which I think in an ideal perfect world, I would have preferred live action, but I feel like there's a lot of room for errors with live action, the casting, and like I know that there would have to be a lot of like special effects and CGI with the Lunar Chronicles, so I'm like, I feel like that's a lot of space for people to mess that up and for it not to be good. So I feel like it being animated, like there's definitely still ways that it could go wrong, but I feel like it's a little less stressful. The idea of there being Lunar Chronicles movies for me to watch is a reality that doesn't seem real. Like, that just doesn't seem like something that ever is gonna happen, and, like, I think it might be. I don't know. It's bonkers. I'm not ready. So just know, as we start to get more and more information about that, if it does end up happening, if we get trailers, there's gonna be a lot of that content happening. I don't even know, like, what's the timeline? Do we know anything? I don't know. I'm just gonna lose my mind, basically, until we have any information. I'm still, like, not trying to get my hopes up because you never know. Things could go bad at any point, but it seems like there's, like, good updates and things are, like, progressing and moving forward, so I'm about to be super annoying. But yeah, that's it. I just wanted to say hello, start the vlog, let you know what we're gonna be getting up to, and I'm very excited to do all of the reading that I have planned for this week. afternoon, everybody. I have quite a few reading updates to share with you. I definitely feel like I'm getting out of my reading slump, which is just very exciting. I think audiobooks have kind of been the savior of this reading slump, so that's been really great. And I'm just really excited to be getting out of this reading slump and just be excited to read again. It's just been such a nice feeling, but I do have some reading updates. I also said in my last vlog that I would update you all on my thoughts on Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I was halfway through that book at the end of my last vlog, so I will talk more about it in my wrap up and everything, but I ended up giving that 2.5 stars, which I think is a pretty unpopular opinion. I feel like everyone loves this book. And I'm just really sad that I wasn't with everyone else and loving this book. There were definitely things that I liked, I guess, about it. I just felt so neutral about it for most of the book. I liked the dual timeline, but I also didn't really feel super connected with the characters. For some reason, Elliot gave me the ick. I don't know what it was about him, but he was not giving me good vibes for some reason. So I was honestly feeling maybe a 3 kind of through most of the book. And then the conflict happened, and it's not even so much that it was the conflict itself that bothered me. It's kind of how the authors wrote this conflict and how they handled it. I just feel like there needed to be a conversation about what happened, and that was just not the conversation these characters were having. It's really hard to talk about this without getting into spoilers. I just think that it was poorly handled, and I just really didn't like the actual conflict, and maybe not for reasons you would think. I don't know. I just thought it was not handled well, and I feel like if the roles were reversed, we would have been having that conversation, but we weren't, and I just don't like it. It made me uncomfortable. So I didn't really like it. So I gave it 2.5 stars. I gave it that extra half star though. I was thinking a 2. I may end up lowering it to just a 2 at some point, but I gave it that extra half star because there was a point in this book that was really, really sad, and I wasn't anticipating it, and I found that I was crying. So instead of a 2, I gave it a 2.5 star, just because it made me feel something at some point. Because honestly, most of the book I wasn't really feeling anything, and then the conflict happened, and then I was angry. So, So yeah, that wasn't a winner for me, but definitely willing to try some other Christina Lauren books. I have wanted to read The Unhoneymooners for a very, very long time, so I might check that one out. I know a lot of people get annoyed with the conflict in that one as well, but I'm willing to give them another try. But also some other reading updates. I have finished both The Writing Retreat and Ophelia After All. So The Writing Retreat, I ended up giving 3.5 stars, which for me in a thriller, that's a pretty good rating. I actually feel like I kind of came out of it being I liked that, which is just not typical for me. Which is why I feel like when it comes to thrillers, I really just want to read the ones that sound interesting to me if I read them, just because I know it's not a genre that typically works for me, but this is one that I was really interested in, and I did like it. I do feel like, it took a while to get into the story, and then once we got into the exciting things happening and the plot twists, there were a lot of things that I kind of predicted. I kind of from the beginning had a feeling on where exactly this book was gonna go, and that's exactly what it did. It was really predictable, but it was still interesting, especially in the second half. There were still some shocking moments, so yeah, I liked it. I don't feel like it's necessarily going to be a book that I think about a lot, because there have been some thrillers that I've read where I think about the twists or the reveals even years after reading them, but I don't feel like this is necessarily going to be one that sticks with me. But I liked it, which is why I gave it 3.5 stars. And then, like I said, I did also finish Ophelia After All. And honestly, my thoughts on this book, my overwhelming thoughts are just that I'm so happy that this book exists. I feel like it's so exciting that teens have a book like this to read about a coming of age story. We have characters building up to their senior year, to their senior prom, things are coming to an end. They have drama within this friendship group. They're making new friends. They are trying to figure themselves out. They may know certain things about themselves, but those things may change. And there's just things that they are starting to learn, and they're discussing college. So it is just a coming of age novel, but it offers such a different perspective because it's just not all white characters through a heterosexual perspective. It's just really, really nice to be able to read it through so many different perspectives, and there's so much representation in here. We have so many different races and cultures and sexualities. It's just so exciting that this book exists, and that there are teens that are going to be able to read this and read a coming of age novel and see themselves represented. And also there's going to be people who are my age or older who may not have had a book like this growing up and can read this now and find comfort in it and be able to have that coming of age moment that maybe they didn't get to have. And I don't know, I'm so just happy that this book exists. As for the actual like plot and characters and all of that, like I enjoyed this book. I liked the characters. I liked that the teens acted like teens. They were messy. They had arguments. They didn't always say the right things, and it just felt really realistic. I also really liked the kind of family dynamics in here. Ophelia is very, very close with her parents, but of course, throughout the novel, there are some complications that she has with them, and I just really liked reading about that aspect and the familial connection that they all had, and just like how family was so important to Ophelia. And I also really liked the way this book ended. At first, I wasn't sure how I felt about it because I feel like I was expecting it to end in one way and it didn't necessarily go that way, and I wasn't sure about it, but I actually think I do enjoy it. I think it makes a lot of sense for Ophelia and her character, and just this like conversation on identity and how, you know, they are teenagers, they are young, they're still figuring themselves out, they might not know everything at this point, but that doesn't really stop when you get older. I do feel like the conversations on identity and not being sure of exactly who you are, I think that those things do continue on past like being a senior in high school, so those things definitely resonated with me, and I think like the ending of this book really made sense with that conversation. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I just didn't get that like 5-star feeling from it, but I did really enjoy it. I can definitely see myself like recommending this book kind of endlessly going forward. I think this is just such a great book for a younger audience to have access to and be able to read, but also it was really good, and I definitely want to check out Raquel Marie's other book that I think just recently came out. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Very happy I finally read it because everyone has been talking about this book since it came out last year, and I finally, you know, am in the know, and I really enjoyed it. And now we can move on to what I'm currently reading and what I'm going to be starting. I did start the audiobook for Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is an author I've been intrigued by for quite a while, but this is a book that I had my eye on because I knew it was a release this year, but I feel like recently I've been seeing a lot of people reading it and really enjoying it, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll try it out. This is a like YA historical fantasy romance kind of thing, and in this book there is this war between the gods, and like years ago they've been asleep for years and years, but now they have woken up and they've started this war, and our main character Iris, or one of our main characters, her brother has gone to fight in this war, and her mom is really struggling with an addiction, so Iris is kind of the one that's responsible for keeping her family like together and providing for her family, and she works at this newspaper, and she knows like her best bet of being able to provide for her family is getting this promotion. She has this rival at the paper named Roman, and he's also trying to get the same promotion that she is. And while that's kind of happening, Iris is writing these letters to her brother who is in this war, and she puts the letters under her wardrobe, but then they disappear, and through some magical connection they're showing up in Roman's like bedroom, so they start this like correspondence, and I think they start to like form this connection through these letters that they're writing each other. So it's going to be like, I think, an enemies to lovers kind of moment, but the whole aspect with the war between the gods is really interesting, so I'm excited to keep going. I'm not super far. I'm 17% of the way through, so I'm not super far, but I am enjoying it, and I think it's a really interesting premise. I've heard that this book focuses a lot more on the romance than like the kind of conflict with the war and all of that stuff, so I think if I have that expectation I might really enjoy it, but I really enjoy the characters so far. I just think the whole like premise is really interesting, and I like the writing, so definitely something that I'm excited to keep listening to. And then I'm also going to be starting Fourth Wing finally on my Kindle. That's going to be my next read, and I'm very excited. I still don't know what this book is about. Still haven't read a description, still don't know. But I did see a tweet, I think it was yesterday, that someone was saying like, could these things have been improved? Could this have been better about Fourth Wing? And they were like, yeah, like there are definitely things that could have been improved, but didn't they have fun? Yes. So I think that's just gonna be the way I go into this book. I definitely have my fair share of books that I enjoy that I know could be better, and like I feel like this could fall into the category of books that I describe as like, I said I loved them, I never said they were good, you know? But also I think people are really enjoying this book, so I don't know. I'm interested to see what I think, but that's definitely gonna be what I start next. And I'm just really excited to see what all of this hype is about. So yeah, that's gonna be my next read. Very excited to start it, and now my camera is dying, so that's a sign that I'm gonna go. right, hello friends, happy Friday. I do have some fun updates. I have some reading updates. I have a little haul to show you, and I thought we could chat about some of my weekend plans. So my favorite place, Michael's, is having a sale. So of course I went and got some things. So some not as exciting things. I got some glue sticks and Tombow, the refills for the glue roller thingy that I use. I'm down to my last glue stick, down to my last refill for one of these, and now I just got some new ink for my printer, so hopefully I'll be able to start printing and update my reading journal and stuff, and I'm gonna be doing more journaling now, so I needed to get some replacements, and glue is very important for journaling. And then recently, for some reason, it's in my brain that I really want to wear an anklet this summer. I don't know why. It's just a thing. And I even tried putting on some of my bracelets that I have from Ana Luisa and just other bracelets and things, but none of them really fit around my ankle because, it's a little bit wider than my wrist. So I decided what might be fun is to go back to my childhood and make some string friendship bracelet type of anklets. Me and my sister used to use, I think this is embroidery string, embroidery floss, I suppose, and we used to use this to make bracelets all the time, and I thought it'd be kind of a fun little throwback to do that, so I picked out some colors. I got this really pretty sage green. I got a few different shades of blue, a light, medium, and a dark blue. I thought these would look pretty together, and then I also got this sand color, a light pink, a more medium pink, and an orange. So I think the pinks could be fun together, the blues could be fun together, but I also think there's a lot of combinations I can make with these colors. So I thought that would be fun. I hope I have enough to make a few, but I definitely want at least one. I don't know. I thought that could be just a fun little activity. So yeah, that's my Michael's haul. Not super exciting. Glue and some friendship bracelet string, but I'm really excited to make those bracelets. I haven't done that in so long, so I think it'll be really fun to do that. And there used to be this website, and I hope it still exists, where it was you could go and find a bunch of different patterns for the bracelets and stuff, so I might need to do that. I don't know. I'm excited though. I think it's gonna be fun. A fun little summer activity. But I also do have some reading updates. Where's my Kindle? Oh, I see it. So I have officially started reading Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I need to look up how to actually say this last name, but I'm 14% of the way through, so I kind of know what this book is about, sort of. So in this book, there's this war going on and dragons, and there are people who are dragon riders, and they are used in this war. And there is this military academy where there's different kind of quadrants. So there is the dragon rider quadrant for people to train to ride dragons, but then there's also a scribe quadrant, and I think there's a healer quadrant as well, and there might be another one that I'm forgetting. But basically our main character, Violet, has been kind of training her whole life to be a part of the scribe quadrant. She is a bookish girl. She just wants to do her research, be surrounded by books. But then her mom, who also happens to be the commander of this military, is no, your whole family is full of dragon riders. You got to do that. So she has 6 months to prepare for that, and everyone else that she is going to be competing against essentially in this military academy have been training their whole lives to be a dragon rider. So she's at a pretty not fair advantage, and she also is not the strongest person either. So yeah, she's a part of the riders quadrant, so she's kind of training and learning how to be a dragon rider and learning about the war and the strategies and all of these things. It's a very high competitive situation because there are only so many dragons, and the whole process is the dragons have to bond with their rider, and they choose who their rider is. And so within this military academy and in this space, there are people who are killing other people who are training for this because it lessens the competition on, who the dragons are going to bond with. So it's this highly competitive, highly dangerous situation, as well as her having to learn how to be a dragon rider. And because her mom is who she is, she also has a lot of people who don't like her and want her dead, including this guy named Zader, I think is his name, or how you say it. He's not a fan of her. He's not a fan of her mom, not a fan of her, wants her dead. It's a very dangerous situation, but I think there is a romance in this book, so I see where it's going. And at the point that I'm at right now, I'm 14% of the way through. I think I said that already. I'm not super far in, so I don't really know where the rest of it's gonna go, but I think in the description it says that there are some secrets that the people who are in power, some of the the leaders are kind of holding back. So I think it's going to be interesting. Where I'm at right now, I don't really have a ton of thoughts, only because I feel like so far it's been a lot of setup and explaining the world. There's been kind of a lot of info dumps, but like it's been done in a good way, but there has been just a lot of information kind of thrown at you at the beginning. So I feel like where I'm at now, she's on her first day at this academy. She's going to her classes for the first time. She's being trained for the first time. And so I think from this point forward, it's going to be progressing a bit and being a little bit more interesting. So yeah, I really don't have a ton of thoughts, to be honest. I think it has a very interesting premise. I'm very interested in this war and the dragons and the whole process of like training at this academy for becoming a dragon rider. I think that that's very interesting. I think a lot of the characters are scary, but there's some that I like. And I also think like this is the type of book where the author is not going to be scared to kill people off. So that would be devastating. So yeah, we're just gonna have to see where things go. I will say the writing is where I'm not super meshing with it. Like I like it's fine, but there definitely are some moments where I'm like, that was one long run-on sentence, or like the sentence structure just didn't make sense. Like it started one way, but then the sentence ended before I was anticipating it to. Like it's just been kind of weird, but it's not awful. But I'm just not like super meshing with the writing style, I think. But I think if I really end up liking the plot and the characters and the romance and all of that, like I feel like I'll be able to maybe look past that. I know I've said before, like people have been giving this book 5 stars and are like, yes, there's things that could have been better. Yes, there's things that could have been improved, but I just enjoyed it so much and had such a fun time that makes me intrigued to keep going, but at the same time makes me nervous, because I feel like the last time people were saying that about a book, and I kept seeing like a lot of people saying it about a certain book, was From Blood and Ash, and that did not work out well for me. So I'm hoping that this works out a little bit better. I will say like chapter 1 of From Blood and Ash was like already a red flag, and I already hated it from chapter 1. This is starting off a little bit better. The writing is just not always my favorite. So I think we might be in a better situation, a better position with this book, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm not super far, and I think where I'm at now, things are really going to start progressing. So I'm interested to see what I think about everything that's happening. I also know like this is the first book in a series, so it does have some setup and some things that needs to get through at the beginning. So I don't know. I'm interested to see where things go. So far, I'm not like obsessed with it, but I don't think I'm like far enough into it to really have those feelings, you know? But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on Fourth Wing so far. I'm also still listening to the audiobook for Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, and I think I'm like 28% of the way through this, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm really loving this book, and I feel like it could potentially be 5 stars. Now, I'm not even a third of the way through, so I probably should slow my roll. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those books that like almost immediately after starting it, I just had like such a good feeling about it. And I kind of was feeling like, oh, this could potentially be a new favorite. Even though I've barely started it, I don't know really what's going on yet. I just had that feeling. And as I continue to read on, I continue to have that feeling. Like I really like the characters. I really like the way the romance is being set up. And I also think like the magic system and like this war between the gods is really interesting. So I just have a good feeling about it. And also it already made me cry. Like there was something that happened that I wasn't anticipating, and I was crying, and I was like, oh, I'm already invested. So I don't know. I potentially am reading a new fave, which would be very exciting. But also, like I said, I don't want to speak too soon. I don't want to jinx it. And I also don't want to be disappointed if it ends up not being a new favorite. Also, there's a hair in my mouth. Okay. But either way, even if I don't end up giving this 5 stars, this is definitely an author that I'm going to have to check out some of her other books, because I'm just really like vibing with the writing style and the characters and everything. So I don't know. I'm very excited about it. So yeah, we'll see how much reading I can get done this weekend. I think tonight I'm going over to my sister's, and she's having some friends over. We're probably gonna just like hang out, chat, drink. I think it's gonna be like kind of nice out still this evening, so it will be a nice night to like sit out on the deck and hang out. So I think that's happening tonight, and then tomorrow we're going up to the lake, and then Sunday we're meeting my parents in Maine and doing like a Father's Day lunch sort of thing. So I might not have a ton of time to read this weekend, but I'm going to bring my Kindle, I'm going to bring my AirPods, I'm going to try and squeeze it in when I can. So hopefully I will be able to document some things this weekend and do some reading, and I just hope that both of these books continue on their path of being winners or end up becoming a winner. We'll see. Nervous about Fourth Wing, but so far it's fine. Well, hello. The weekend has come to an end. Probably didn't know about that though, because I've barely filmed anything. Honestly, when I'm doing anything, I always forget that I'm vlogging. Plus, like, I just don't like to film, like, family and friends, especially, like, if they don't know. Like, it's not the most comfortable situation. So, I haven't really filmed a whole lot this weekend, but it's now Monday. I'm gonna wrap up this vlog here. I have done some reading. I didn't really have a ton of time to read this weekend just because I was at my sister's on Friday hanging out, and then the whole weekend we were up at the lake. We didn't end up going up to Maine on Sunday yesterday because my parents just kind of came home, so we just hung out with my parents for a little bit when we got back from the lake yesterday. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a weekend of hanging out with people and chilling and up at the lake, and I just didn't really have a ton of time to read. But I did do some reading at the lake yesterday, and I also, like, once I got home, started doing even more reading. So just some quick little updates. Divine Rivals, I have not read a ton. Like, I didn't really listen to it at all this weekend until yesterday, and even then I didn't really read a lot, so it says I'm 37% of the way through. I feel like I didn't read enough to really have any changing thoughts. I do feel the same. I'm still excited to keep going. I'm still really enjoying it, but pretty much my thoughts in the last update, I'm feeling the same. And then with Fourth Wing, I'm on chapter 17, which is 37% of the way through. So I have read a little bit. I read a little at the lake yesterday, and then I read a little bit once we came home, because I kind of have gotten to a point where I don't really want to put this book down. I'm starting to understand why people are obsessed with this. Do I think it's perfect? No. Do I understand why people aren't going to like this? Like, this isn't going to work for everybody? 100%. I just think it's so fun. Obviously, there are a lot of moments where there's kind of these, like, violent moments and there's lots of death and dramatic things happening, but it's still kind of fun. And I think part of the reason why it's just so, like, you just want to keep reading, and why I'm enjoying it and why I think it's working for a lot of people, is it's just very engaging. I feel like every chapter something's happening, and it's not always like big dramatic things. Yes, there are those moments. Yes, there's characters that die. Yes, there are these, like, intense training moments with these characters that are very violent or very intense. Yes, sometimes she just finds out information that gets, like, revealed, or she'll find something out. And even then, like, there's just times where she's, like, interacting with a certain character that wants her dead, especially the moments between her and Xaden. He's the one that really wants her to die, and he really wants to kill her, but he's also really attractive, so there's tension for a lot of reasons. But it's not always just these big, shocking, intense moments. There's just, like, interactions with characters, there's information they find out, there's things with the dragons. Like, it's not always super intense moments, but it's just, like, really engaging the way it's written, and there's always something happening every chapter that makes me want to keep reading, especially knowing that the romance is going to be, I feel like, picking up at this point. Like, I have heard, like, the first part of the book is really focused on the plot and the dragons and all of that, and then it takes a hard shift and focuses on the romance, and then the end kind of focuses back more so on, like, the plot and stuff. So that makes me excited to keep going, because I feel like where I'm at right now, what I've just read and, like, everything that's just kind of happened, the romance is gonna very much take an interesting turn, and I'm really excited to see that happen, because there is a bit of a, like, a love triangle, I suppose, that's happening, but not really. And I think I know, like, where things are gonna go, you know, and I'm just so excited to see that all happen. Like, I'm just having a good time. I don't know. Like I said, it's not the most perfect book. I still, like, stand by my comments before about the writing not always being great. Like, honestly, the writing is fine. There's just been a couple of sentences here and there that have either just been a little funky or, like, kind of cringy. Like, the writing has been a little cringe at times. Like, there's a moment where she was talking to a character named Dane, I think is how you say his name. I'm gonna get the audiobook just to, like, hear these names pronounced, but he's, like, her childhood friend, and he is a writer, and he is, like, a second year, I think. So he went and did all of this the year before Violet, and they've kind of reconnected through her being there, and he's just, like, very protective of her, and they're having this conversation, and he's like, what's changed since the beginning of all of this? And she goes, me. And I'm like, okay, all right, Disney Channel, like, that's enough, you know? Like, there's definitely been some cringy moments with the writing, but I don't know, like, I feel like it's still enjoyable enough. Like, the writing isn't bad, and it's definitely, like, readable. It's not distracting me from what's going on, you know? Because sometimes when you're reading a book and you're not matching with the writing, it can distract you from, like, what's actually happening in the book. That's not happening, especially now that I've gotten to a point where I feel like I understand the world, I understand the characters, I understand what's going on, and now I can just, like, read the book and see what happens. I don't know, I'm enjoying it. Do I think it's a perfect book? Absolutely not. But am I having a great time? Yes. And I know it's annoying that I'm going to end this vlog without me having finished the book, but I am planning on doing a 24-hour readathon at some point this week, because my 4-year booktube and bookstagram anniversary is next week, and that just doesn't make any sense to me, first of all, but I want to do a 24-hour readathon to kind of celebrate that. So I think my plan is that I'm going to read and finish Fourth Wing in that 24-hour readathon. So you will hear my thoughts in that readathon. You also hear my thoughts on this and Divine Rivals in my wrap-up and everything, so you will know how I feel. Yeah, so far, both of these books I'm really enjoying for very different reasons. But yeah, I'm enjoying both of them, and I'm just excited to keep going and see how I end up feeling about both of these books, especially Fourth Wing, considering, you know, all the hype surrounding it. But yeah, I think that's actually gonna kind of wrap up this vlog. I did finish something so earlier this vlog. I'm not completely leaving you hanging with everything I started this week. I did finish the writing retreat, which I gave 3.5 stars, I think. Honestly, I've already kind of forgotten about that book, so that's when you know it's not like a thriller that's really gonna stick with me, but I did have a good time. So 3.5 stars, and then I also read Ophelia After All and gave that 4 stars. So finished a couple things, started a couple things, but right now I definitely feel like I'm enjoying what I'm reading. I'm getting out of my reading slump, so everything is great over here, reading-wise. But yeah, I would love to know if you've read any of these books, or if you've read Fourth Wing specifically, like your thoughts on all the hype, if you agree, if you disagree. I'd love to hear any thoughts. But even if you just read any of these books that I read in this vlog, I'd love to chat about them down below with you all. But I think that that is going to be it for this vlog. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.